train turned late
I'm joined by Pete Spicer of the Condriacs. As you know, we're massive fans of the Condriacs here. They first appeared on the show probably about 6 years ago, and it was their first radio interview and first live performance, and they hadn't had their name for very long. Since then, they've grown their fan base to about 130,000 followers plus, and they've also got a brand new track out with Nick Van Eede of Cutting Crew and Ed Rome. Obviously Tony Slavin and Peter Spicer are the Condriacs, and they've got a great song out called London Town, and I'm joined by Peter now. Hello!
Hello! How you doing?
I'm fine. Lovely to see you.
And you. Actually, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's why I've got a flattering light on me, as you can see. Now, you've just done a gig, actually. You started doing gigs, before we chat about the song, you started doing gigs, and you've done recently one in Brentwood. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was last Sunday, and it was really good fun. And we're trying things. It's kind of a test bed, really, because as you know, we've always mainly done stuff online, and we're not a polished live act. That sounds terrible to say. What I mean is that, you know, if you're gigging every week, then you hone those skills and you know exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it. And we're lucky if we do a gig every 6 months, so we start again every time we go and play live. So really what we wanted to do is find a way of the two of us recreating our music so that it sounds like our music. To spend all that time, energy, money, talent to create the song exactly how you want it to sound, and then be forced to recreate it with one acoustic guitar is tricky. You don't get to play, to show people, especially people that haven't heard you before, what your music really sounds like. So we've been using backing tracks on some of the songs. So the guitar's muted, vocals are muted, and we play over the top. Not all. We don't think we ever would do all, because it is a live thing, and some of the songs work really well with just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. So that's what that was about. We've got another one on the 8th of October at the Essex Arms as well.
Excellent, brilliant pub in Brentwood if you're around to go and see the boys. Now, your success, you have, when I first met you, when you first came to the studio quite a few years ago, you literally were two dads that knew each other's kids from school. You kind of got together and started writing some music, gave yourself the name The Condriacs, which came about how?
That was, well, it started with my wife taking the mickey out of us. That's what we didn't have a name. We were just writing songs together, and she used to call us. I mean, I don't know whether she ever actually started by calling us hypochondriacs. I think she always turned the word hypochondriacs into a band name in her head, so called us the Condriacs. And the phrase I always use to explain that is two men of a certain age. So that's, and that it kind of well, and also you alluded to the fact that we'd never, I mean, we already had that name, but we'd never sort of settled on that being our name. We didn't think it was, you know, it was a Mickey take name. And then when we were coming on your show, this whole thing is your fault, by the way, that you started the whole thing off. When we were coming on your show, and we knew we had to tell you what we were called, because I think when we first spoke to you, we were Pete and Tony, which doesn't sound much like a band name. So I then went on to the random word generator, because of course nowadays you have to use that, because otherwise the domain's already gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I went on to random word generator, and it came up with all these amazing band names if we were in our early 20s, but they sounded so pretentious for what was going to turn up at your station. A couple of blokes with a flat cap on trying to playing their songs relatively badly. So we actually thought the Condriacs kind of underplayed what we did and suited us. And flipping hell, it's stuck, isn't it?
Yeah. And that live recording will be somewhere on, it's still up on Phoenix FM. I'll have to dig that out, actually.
It's on Phoenix FM, and I also posted it on it's on our YouTube channel. It's in 3 parts. Yeah. Which I think I said to you before when I found it, and I listened all the way through that interview, and I thought, isn't that strange? How many people get to listen to the conversation they had the first time they met a friend? Yeah. Because that's effectively what that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And when you listen to that interview, it's no different than how we speak now.
No.
It was exactly the same. It was like it clicked, didn't it?
Yeah. because we are the thing is we are friends. If people out there might not know, but we are friends. And I met Ed through you, and obviously met Tony through you, and you
Yeah.
know, a great circle of people, and your partners and everything else. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and you don't really kind of self promote. So I'm just going to put it out there that you're also on London Town as well. You're
Yes,
singing on
I
London Town,
am.
so
I
you're
am.
on that single,
I know. I'm
which
so
and it's like you never know, do you? You sort of pop into the studio and do a thing,
yeah.
and then you never know where that's going to go or what's going to happen to it. I mean,
Right.
we didn't at the time either.
So how did London Town come about? You've got your 130 odd thousand followers now, great fan base, you loads of lives, people buying the merchandise, they're supporting you, they're getting together in groups outside of you and meeting up.
Yeah, they don't.
Don't
We've created a
include you
monster.
two.
They
So
don't need us, do they?
how did I know that Ed Rome, who's your producer and sometimes co-writes on stuff with you as well, and Nick Van Eede from the Cutting Crew. So how did you all get into the studio, and how did that song actually come about? London Town.
That song, we were sat in my kitchen. We were writing songs for the Crazy album, and we'd finished, and the phone was left recording. And because we always just record everything, because you never know what nuggets are going to come out from it. And sometimes it's 3 years later you go through and you go, oh, we never did anything with that. But anyway, so we were writing, and Tony got up to leave, and he said, we really should write another song that's a bit kind of cheeky, a bit like, the Mama Please, I'll Take It All kind of, I'm sure most of the listeners have no idea what those two songs are, but that kind of. So I started just strumming some chords, and Tony started singing, and this was all being recorded on the phone, and he sung virtually the whole of London Town, including the pre-chorus and the chorus, and the verses just came out of his head.
Wow.
And in fact, I found that recording fairly recently. So when we did the CD with the 5 singles on,
yeah.
We put it on. I probably shouldn't say this, but we stuck it on as a hidden track. That original moment when we wrote that song, we actually captured live on our phone, and we stuck it as a hidden track on the CD.
Yeah,
I can say that because most people have found it now. So yeah, but that was the song. And then meanwhile, I'm sort of chatting with Nick because one of our lovely patrons, Lucy, is friends with him, and played him some of our stuff, and he liked it and wanted to know more about us, and then he got in touch with us, and we just to say
that's Nick Van Eede from Cutting Crew, which is Light in Your Arms Tonight, one of the massive song that everybody knows.
Oh, I mean, that song was in Lego Batman, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It was the first US #1 for Virgin Records. Wow. It's got nearly 500 million streams.
Wow.
on Spotify, and yet those numbers would suggest the person you meet is very different to the person you actually meet. Yeah. I mean, he's just a lovely, generous, self-deprecating, talented man. Yeah. And he's been really supportive. I mean, on things outside of doing this single, he's been lovely to work with. We've thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. But anyway, so that's kind of, while we're writing this album, we kind of talked about maybe doing something together. I just assumed that was a nice thing for him to say, but it would never actually happen. Yeah. Who would think that would happen? And I bought his records when I was a teenager. Yeah. The idea that I was going to be working with him didn't make any sense at all. I mean, who are we? Yeah. And so that conversation was happening while we were writing the album. He then contacted us and said, I've got a bit of time. I'd still love to do some backing vocals on your album. So we sent him the songs, and he chose 2 songs to put backing vocals on. Which he did, but he also had his eye on London Town as well, to say this would be really lovely. This would really work as a double, because it's really difficult to do a double male duet. Yeah, there's not many songs that handle it, and he felt that was really good, and he thought it was a real kind of earworm, the song. And again, we didn't think that would actually happen, but he came up to Ed's studio. He's been up to Ed's studio a few times. and we worked not only with the vocals, but also he was involved with Ed on the production of it as well. And this, I remember that. I mean, I know people listening don't necessarily know Ed, but you know Ed. And when Nick walked away from that session, he said something along the lines of, "He's impressive from a producer point of view."
Yeah.
Which is quite something from Ed, isn't it? So never said that about me.
Ed gets all the good compliments. All the good compliments. Ed.
Yes.
Yeah. No more compliments for you, Ed.
so that was that, and then obviously Ed and you are always involved in our music, and you know, to varying degrees on varying songs and albums. And of course, when we did, I think the one before Crazy, the album we did before Crazy was in the lockdown, and we couldn't have you on the album. In fact, there wasn't very much of us on the album at the time because we couldn't get into the flipping studio to record anything.
I know, it's terrible.
But when we did Crazy, obviously we got you in to do vocals on quite a few of those songs. And that was lovely. And Ed, we wouldn't sound like we do without Ed, not only from a producer's point of view and a sound engineer, but his talent on musical instruments is just exceptional, particularly, you know, electric guitar. Some of his work on that is just phenomenal. And so that's kind of where London Town was born, initially from you guys, and then Nick coming along, and we kind of reworked it a little bit. It's still the same song. It's a little bit different production wise. But that's it, and that's how that came about. That's a long answer to a short question.
I've been here. Oh no, look, about 18 hours. Sorry,
okay, good luck editing that.
Yeah, you'll just be. I've written a song. I mean, thank you very much. I'll be like, where's the bit in the middle, God?
yeah. And I purposely didn't breathe, so you haven't got any point that you can cut it.
Probably not. I'll just overdub it with my own voice. So London Town is out. It's released now, and you're starting to go on a lot of the big stations as well, which must be really exciting.
Yeah, we're getting there. We've employed. We're doing this because I think to have Nick's presence and not try to capitalize on that is just ridiculous. I mean, if we just released this song and we just went about it the way we always have, which is in our little bubble online, I think people will be very pleased for us that we're working with a giant like Nick. I mean, I don't mean, you know what I mean, but I don't think it would have any impact on us at all. I think everything would just carry on as normal. So we took the decision, and we did it through crowdfunding. So we created a CD single which we sold with the absolute purpose of raising funds so that we could employ a proper PR company that have the contacts, because that's how this world works, and to connect us with some of the media outlets, and hopefully some of the bigger ones as well. So we now are doing interviews. So I did two earlier today. One of them was with Nick, which I must say was great fun. His time is very, very limited, so he can't be with us on all the interviews. So we're just kind of happy when he's got some. That sound. It's not always limited. It's just our PR campaign is happening at the same time as everything else in his schedule. So we're just trying to do it with him wherever we can. But that's another long answer. I'll try and shorten them a little bit.
How many followers have you got now on social media, and how would you encourage people that are independent artists releasing their own music and to help people? Because it is a big thing that you've got to be not only a singer-songwriter, do the production, get the people in. If you're not just guitar and vocals or piano and vocals, it's a big sort of production to get the music there, and then you've got the rest of the work. But you guys have done it, well, you more than probably Tony, have done a really good job at building a following. So how have you done it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try not to be too long, although it's a subject that requires quite a lot of words. I think that people they misunderstand what makes a music career, because it used to be sales of things, because that's where the money came from. And also record companies could could spend an absolute fortune putting you everywhere so that you saw the name everywhere you went, billboards, television adverts. And what that does psychologically is it makes you think, oh, they're the ones I'm supposed to be listening to now. You know, in the same way you don't buy the best washing powder, you buy the best washing powder you think from the brands you know on the shelf.
What one do you buy?
Only know the
what one do you buy? You don't do
I
the
can't
washing,
say that, can I?
No.
I buy washing powder.
There we go, because you don't want to tell your 130,000 fans, because it might, you know, go off.
It could influence people, couldn't it? Because I'm that powerful.
Sorry, I interrupted
one word
you.
from me. One word from me. Like it'd never be one word from me. But anyway, so that's that. You know, that's you're buying what you based on what you know, and the best washing powder could be outside of the top 5 brands, and you will never ever trust it. You'll never go to it because it's not familiar to you. And it's the same with music. So you historically, that's what we've been sold, and that's the only way it could be done, I guess. But now what people are doing is they're chasing streams on Spotify. And streams on Spotify mean very little. They just don't mean, I don't just mean financially, in any way, shape or form, because unless those people are actually going to connect with you as an artist, like what you do, believe in what you do and want to be part of your journey, look forward to your next album, seek out where you're going to play live. Just them listening to a song and adding one to your streams doesn't make, even if it made you money, it still wouldn't be a future. Because who's going to be around for your next album? And that's the thing. So that's what artists are chasing is those numbers, and those numbers look cool. They really do. If they're big, they look great. But they don't actually mean you've got any kind of a sustainable career. The key thing is finding ways to connect with people that like your music. And I think we're quite fortunate in that we accidentally have done that. We didn't know we didn't know what we were doing. And not only did we connect with people, we sort of created this area online where people felt safe and it was positive, and people came there and they got to know each other. And then we didn't even know that these people were then creating WhatsApp groups outside of us. And, you know, a whole bunch of them had just been away on a soul weekend. I mean, not a hint of Condriacs music anywhere in sight.
Well, didn't Wendy come over from America?
Wendy came over from Canada. Brigitte came over from Paris. And in fact,
they were in Brentwood. I was away.
They were in Brentwood. I know they travelled to Brentwood. And then we went out for a meal with them, which was just amazing. It is just bizarre. The only reason we know these people from France and Canada is because we wrote some songs. That's it. The only reason that somebody from France knew somebody from Canada and they were spending a holiday together was because they met through our music. And that kind of goes beyond anything. We're not suggesting that's us. It was just the starting point of it. But, you know, I went to see a great band called Sea Power, and they're much bigger than us, but it reminded me of us, of what's happened to us, because I was talking to these two guys. It was I can't remember the name of the castle up north. It's a very famous castle, but anyway, it's a festival there. It was their festival. Talking to these people, and they were staying together in a camper van, and I asked how they knew each other, and they said they'd met years ago at a previous gig for the band. And I thought, these people not only come to see this band, they group together and come together to see the band. And that's powerful, because those people can't wait for the next gig. And that's where the future is in music for people like us, I think.
Yes. And the good thing is that music now is open to all age groups, because before, if somebody said, oh, how old are you, 30, oh, I wouldn't bother anymore, or get off the telly, or don't bother going in for competitions, don't do this, don't do that. It doesn't matter anymore, because you build your fan base of people around a similar age, younger, maybe a bit older, but you've got your people that, I mean, there's somebody in their 40s and 50s, you might like music from a 20-year-old and it might be fantastic, but it might not be something that you want to listen to. So that's that you've got music across
and ages. It's and you're finding this because I'm pleased to say things are really starting to happen for you as well. I mean, the stuff with the BBC introducing is just fantastic, and that's stuff that we've not
but we
managed
appreciate
to,
that because we're musicians. I don't know if anyone else realises. I was like, oh, I was at the airport going, oh my god.
Yeah, well, it's just I mean, even just from the credibility that it, that when you're sitting writing I don't know if I said this to you before. I reminded my brother of this, that when me and Tony first started writing songs, I was at my family's house, and my nephew was there, and something had come up about it, and he said to me, "Oh, do you know my other uncle's having a midlife crisis at the moment as well?" And that was his view as a teenager of what we were doing, because we were older doing this. And obviously, when you're like 16 years old, you're ancient at 35, let alone 55. So, but what I think is, I think that, and I'm sure people will relate to this, I think that the excitement that I get from discovering a new artist that I relate to, and sometimes there's an age thing involved with that, sometimes it's not. But often it's an age thing because of life experiences, and but a new artist that I relate to, and I've just fallen very quickly in love with their music, and I'm seeking out everything by them. Now that thrill and that excitement of that new music is exactly the same feeling now as it was when I was 15, when I was 12 and I discovered the Jam. It's exactly the same feeling. What I think is that the industry doesn't service people of our age with new artists. No. I just don't think it does. It's not capable of doing it. I don't think it's a conscious thing. I don't think it's, specifically an ageist thing. I just think it's not set up to be able to do that. No. You can be our age and be successful, providing you had success when you were younger. So you're already a name. Rick Astley as a great example of that. You can do a comeback, but who are the artists that are starting out that people are able to discover now for the first time and get excited about, that are around that age group, so that they can really relate to them? I mean, I love music. I love all sorts of music, and I love music from some younger artists as well. I can't say I necessarily connect with the lyrics like I perhaps do even with some of Tony's lyrics. I can appreciate his lyrics even though I'm writing the songs with him, because it's talking about the life that we've had for the 30 years after being 25. So and I think that's a great thing about social media, that people like you and people like us and people like Ed can go out and discover our audiences. You don't have to wait for permission to be able to succeed at it.
And the other thing is, as I always say, a like costs you nothing, a comment costs you nothing, a share costs you nothing. So if you want to support independent music, you can do those three things and they will mean the world to the band. And if you go to something like Bandcamp, or maybe you go to the artist website and you download a track for 99 pence, that money then goes into artists being able to create more money. So more music is what I meant to say. More music.
Well, it does create more money, but it just all gets absorbed in the music, doesn't it?
I mean, how much money have we all spent on releasing it? I've spent thousands. I've not made anything. You guys have sold a lot of CDs, which is fantastic. And
we have and stuff. We have, but we haven't broken even on our recording.
No.
It's just on our recording alone. I mean, I think the Condriacs album, the Green album, I think that was around 6,000 or 7,000 in total from beginning to end. That takes a lot to be able to make that money back. But that's not what
We're not in it to make money. You're not in it to make. It'd be lovely to make some money from music, but that's not why you do it. You do it because it's enjoyable. You've got that creative process.
Yeah, it's a very healthy thing to. If you have a creative urge, it's a very, very healthy thing to do, I think, and it's very unhealthy to stifle that if you are that kind of a person. But you're right. I don't specifically. I can't deny that. I'm not at an age where I'm thinking, maybe that's not an age-related thing. You know, I'm not after a big car. I'm not after a big house. You know, if I won the lottery, I'd stay where I am. I understand that that's not where happiness and contentment comes from.
Yeah.
I can't deny that if we could translate this into enough of an income so we didn't have to work, but we could focus on the music, that would be a dream come true. So I just wanted to go back to something you said, which I think is really important. You said about supporting independent artists. If you are following an independent artist and you really want them to continue, then contact them, because for a start, most independent artists are very, very contactable, and ask them how you can support them. What is the best thing they could do to support you? Because it might be they have some form of a patrons club, or there might be something that being asked that question is absolutely ideal. Sometimes we get people go off and buy stuff from like iTunes make more money out of that than we make out of it. So we don't want them doing that. We'd much rather they came to us. It would be better for us for them to buy you know, a couple of songs directly from us than it would be a whole album from iTunes. You know that as well, don't you?
Don't you little minx?
Don't you? Yes.
So London Town, I shall be playing it out on the show after this.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get this, well, fingers crossed for the A-list, because it's a great song. And I've got a couple of oohs on there, which is good. In the background.
You got more than that.
Oh, I'm on the song. So I'm really pleased, along with you, Ed, Nick Van Eede and Tony. So that is the Condriacs. And if you want to find out more, if you just go onto Facebook, find the Condriacs, and you can also find the Condriacs Family. They're a lovely welcoming bunch of maniacs, I'll call them. No, I'm kidding. They're a lovely bunch. They all get together, as you said. There's a real kind of family thing there, and Tony does loads of lives, you do loads of lives. There's lots of interaction going on, so do check out check you out across social media. I don't want to get so stuttery for. It must be old age.
I think it's because you're you're in the presence of greatness now.
I
do. And quite rightly, you're nervous now.
I know. There's nothing worse than interviewing a friend where you're going, oh, hello, and then you're like, and you're thinking to yourself, I know her, the old bat. She's not normally that pleasant. But it's been great to talk to you. You're just starting on this promo for London Town, so hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll see you on some of the big stations, getting your music out there across the world, and hope it all goes well for you. Remember me.
Thank you so much. A rising tide raises all ships.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
We won't have to remember you. You're coming with us.
Too right, I haven't got the bag packed in the background. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. All right.
Starting with London Town.